We're just gonna address the elephant in the room before we address the elephant in the room. Something like that. This shirt is heavily stained. It's one of my favorites though. It's from Dutch Wonderland, which is a place in Lancaster that I used to go to when I was a kid. That was like our summer break thing. I brought my kids back there last year. I probably would never go back because it looks like it kind of went downhill quite a lot since I was there as a kid. There was animatronics that were missing like parts of their face, okay? Like it really went downhill since I was a child. But anyway, I wanted a shirt because I love the place and I don't know, I really wanted something to remember it by, and then I went and I stained it. Whatever, we're just going to move past that. I do look like that trash that is currently on my floor. We're going to clean as I make this video, but I want to make this video for quite some time now, and now is the time that I can. If you didn't know, and I don't know if I mentioned it in any of my previous videos, but we were president of our HOA. We do have an HOA for our small neighborhood. I think it's like 20 something houses, not quite 30 houses a part of our HOA. And really honestly, we have it because we have such small common ground that there needs to be an HOA. It's like unbelievably silly, but it had to happen, and we were president of our HOA for most of the time that we live here, just giving it up this year, and we're going to get into that. But the whole reason why I want to talk about it is because a YouTube short came up earlier talking about HOAs, and the comments were just ripping them apart. And I think there's some things behind the scenes that people do not realize that goes into the whole HOA thing, and now that we are not president anymore, I'm going to spill the tea about my own. I will not use people's real names. I'm going to try to be as respectful as possible. But I'm going to tell you guys some hidden things about HOA. Also, don't mind those like 4 boxes of cereal up there. In a previous video, I did said, oh, I only like to have 2 boxes open at a time. And I did at that time. And then everybody started picking their own box of cereal, including myself. I'm going to be honest. Including myself, when we ended up with 4 boxes. It's whatever. I'm looking to fix that, but for right now, I don't care. It's so little in the grand scheme of things. But yes, if you call me out on that, you are very right. I said I would only like 2, and there's 4 up there currently open. There actually might be a 5th one. There's like a bag right there that does not have the box. Yeah, it is what it is. I'm gonna quickly put these water bottles away as we start talking about this. Oh, this is my ice scoop, not a water bottle. That is HOA. Let me start at the beginning. We lived here for 8 or 9 years now at this point. I can't remember. It's either 8 or 9. And most of that time we have been president of our HOA. And when we started being president of our HOA, this should have been our first red flag. The previous president of HOA was really happy to move on from it. Now, he was getting older, so I understand that. But he seemed almost too excited to give up the role. But we didn't pay attention. I didn't realize that. I now realize that. I didn't realize that then. And pretty much what they told us, we have bylaws. I have reread through my bylaws, all 30-something pages, so many times now at this point that I know the bylaws. Front, back, top, bottom, I know the bylaws at this point. When they gave it to us, they pretty much said, here goes the bylaws, and we follow them to a point, but really everybody keeps to themselves. So we very rarely have problems here. Nothing major. They did mention one neighbor that tends to have problems, but it kind of comes and it goes. And anyway, that's what they told us, was that it's not that big of a deal. Everybody kind of keeps to themselves, and that's what they do around here. So I didn't think anything of it. It wasn't until we were a few months into being president of HOA, and let me tell you, everybody was happy. They were like, ooh, somebody younger, because we did have, at the time, a lot of older neighbors living here. They were like, somebody younger, that's a great idea to pass HOA off on. So maybe a few months into HOAs when things started to happen. Little things you would hear go through the neighborhood, ideas, but not really. Like, everybody had an idea, but they wanted everybody else to do it, right? Example, we paid somebody to mow the HOA lawn, the common ground. Everybody wanted like the neighbors to take turns doing it so that we didn't have to pay. But nobody ever volunteered to do it. And if somebody did volunteer to do it, it was like, yeah, I'll do it, but then they never did it. Okay, so we always had to pay somebody to mow our lawns. So everybody had all these ideas, and you would start to hear like chatter of it here and there, but nobody would step up and be like, I'm going to be the one to do this. Like, ever the whole time we were here, okay? We were president and then we had a treasurer. That treasurer was treasurer since this neighborhood was built in the 90s, okay? Since the neighborhood has started, he has always been treasurer. And it's not because he wanted to be, it's because nobody else stepped up to be. And if nobody else stepped up to be, our township told us that they would take it over. There would be a charge, but they would take it over, and then they have full control over everything. Whoever they want to hire, they can hire, and our HOA fees would go up. Our HOA fees are extremely cheap compared to neighborhoods around us. The neighborhood right next to us, as far as I remember, it was $400, and that was like before 2020, so it's probably even higher now. $400 a month. Ours is $300 a year. So that's the difference between us and them. Our HOA is pretty cheap, and HOA pays for taxes, it pays for accountant stuff, like all things like that. It's not just something that sits somewhere. It pays for insurance in case something happens on common ground. It pays for a lot, and we have a really good insurance policy. We'll see if that sticks, but as of right now, we have a really good insurance policy. Anyway, so our fees are super small compared to other areas around us. And I'm sorry if I kind of jump around just a tiny bit because I'm remembering things and they're a little bit out of order, but I will try to keep everything in order as much as possible. So time starts passing and we start hearing of things, and then we start hearing complaints. And I'm sorry if I say so often, I will try to use other words, other connection words. We started getting complaints. It was always from one neighbor. They were very right that this one neighbor complains about everything, okay? If she had even the smallest problem that could be put on HOA, she did it. And if things weren't done to her liking, if things weren't done on her time, which normally was like, you know, the next day, I want this done tomorrow, and things don't run that way. We never got paid for our position. It was a volunteer position. And we work, right? Like every day we're doing something. We don't have just 24 hours to give to this one neighbor for all of her complaints. We just don't. So if things weren't done on her time, or we said something that she maybe didn't like, she would go to the township, okay? So it would go above us. She would go to the township. The township would then either decide they're going to follow through with whatever she's saying. For example, parking. We have a cul-de-sac. So our cul-de-sac is a cul-de-sac. And we used to park our cars like this along the cul-de-sac, right? Because we have a lot of houses in this neighborhood that have multiple generations of families living in them. So there's multiple cars, and you cannot fit all your cars on your driveway, okay? You can't. So we used to park like this along our cul-de-sac, and she wanted to change. So instead of, I don't even think she asked us for that. This was a long time ago, but I don't remember her even asking about it. She went straight to the township about it, and she complained to the township. The township said, oh yeah, that's illegal. You cannot park like this in your cul-de-sac. That's illegal. So what we'll do is we'll get a cop out, and we'll make everybody change so that here goes the cul-de-sac. You're parked like this. Do you know how many fewer cars you could park in that cul-de-sac with cars parking like that? And I don't know why it's illegal, because the cul-de-sac it's a pretty big place. So people can freely turn around. We have school buses, we have fire engines turn around when cars were parked like this. There's enough room to have first responders here. There's enough room to have anybody, emergency vehicles. There was enough room. So I don't know why it was illegal, but she went and she complained. And so the next morning we had cops here knocking on everybody's door telling us that we either had to repark our cars or move them completely. It was insane. Now, a lot of the neighbors ended up complaining about that, because where are they going to park their extra cars that, you know, their kids have? Or we have one family that has like the grandmom and then the daughter and then the daughter's husband and their kids. Like, it's really multi-generational. We had them complain, well, where are we going to park our cars? Where can we safely park our cars? After our street, it's just all street. There's nowhere to park your cars outside of our neighborhood, okay? And we're looking at them like, I don't know what to tell you. This is the law. The cops came here, and then they would question who did it, right? And we found out who did it because the cop was honest with us. He probably shouldn't have been, but he was. We found out who did it. but we could not tell the neighbors who complained. We could not tell them who called the township and said that this needs to be fixed. So it kind of fell on us. It really did. It fell on us like, well, you're the HOA president, fix this. And in order to fix it, we needed to spend money. We needed to have somebody come out to say that it was safe enough to park the other way, and that would have been too much money for our HOA. Again, we collect the bare minimum just to do taxes and pay off like financial people and all. We don't have extra money floating around. We decided to do that because I know a lot of my neighbors cannot afford a HOA fee, especially hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So we didn't have money to fix it or fight it. And we could not tell other people because we were president who actually put in this complaint. I still don't know till this day if everybody knows that it was that neighbor who put in this complaint, which for the record, she ended up getting married and her husband is just like her. So end up being two people complaining in one household, and they would take turns calling the township and complaining, which we just found out not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, that they were going to the township way more than we thought they were. We had no idea just how much they were going to the township about things. So anyway, a few months into us being president, we started getting these complaints. And if it wasn't dealt with on their time or to their liking, they would go to the township. And we had the whole neighborhood looking at us like, fix this. We don't want this going on. What the heck is going on here? Tell us. And we could not tell them who it was. We had to take the fault for it. Like, oh, you're president of HOA. This is up to you. And it really wasn't. And it wasn't me or Chase. It was not me or Chase as president of HOA who complained or did any of that. But we couldn't tell nobody that it wasn't us. So we took the fault for all these complaints that came from that household. And you know what? They did another thing too. When they would complain and it wouldn't get done on time, if they had another complaint right after that, they would write an anonymous letter, okay, that we would get in our mailbox like, hey, this needs to be addressed now. And it obviously came from that house because the problem, it was strictly to that house. Like, I wasn't sure why they weren't signing their names on it because the problem was specifically their house. I'm going to tell you what the problem was. Let me put this away because you're going to laugh if you hear this. The letter we got in the mail. We got a few, but this one you're going to find hilarious, in my opinion, because I found it hilarious. She wrote a letter, an anonymous letter. It was put inside of our mailbox, which, by the way, we have cameras. Anyway, it was put inside of our mailbox. It was stating that a cat was using their lawn for bathroom business. I said, that's weird because that neighbor allows her cats outside all the time. I have watched this neighbor allow her cats outside. They go to the bathroom on her lawn and then her dog eats it. I have witnessed this. So if she's complaining that that's happening, it's her cat. I have watched this happen. And they're not in eyesight of anything to even see it happening, okay? So I thought it was funny that she was complaining, but it was really her animal doing it. And eventually she removed where her pet was going to the bathroom at. So I think she caught on after a while that it was indeed her pet and not somebody else's pet. So the first thing I want to make sure that people know is that HOA presidency, I'm sure that there's some that are quite annoying and quite strict. But double think it sometimes because we took the brunt for every complaint that came our way because we could not tell people who it was and they weren't telling people that they were doing it either. They weren't coming out and saying, I have this problem, this problem, this problem. It was either emails, township calls, or anonymous letters. So really, we took the brunt for a lot of things. We had no problems. I think the whole time we were HOA, we had no personal problems with anybody. Again, everybody keeps to themselves. Every household takes care of their house. Nobody causes problems but that one household. That one household has caused us problems since we became president, and we took the brunt for that household and not anymore. But when you hear that HOAs are so bad, think about the neighbors because it's not always the HOA's fault. I think that bothers me so much because it went against my morals. It really did a lot of the times. I felt bad when I knew a family was struggling and we had to ask them to spend money that I knew they couldn't have to either fix something or get rid of something or stop parking on their lawn, which it was so silly. That was another thing that neighbor complained about. I have a neighbor who is a fire chief, okay? Sometimes he parks on his lawn so that he doesn't have to disturb his wife or his baby when he has to go, because he can leave at any time, morning, night. Whenever he gets a call, he has to be gone. So he was parking on his lawn. Oh, well, in the bylaws, it says you can't do that. So she complained, and she made us tell him to stop parking on his lawn. And I felt so bad about that, because I know he works so hard, and his wife has a baby. And parking on his lawn wasn't that serious. It's not like he could park in the cul-de-sac anymore. You remember? Remember the parking thing? It's not like he could park there. I felt really, really bad telling him that he can't park on his lawn anymore, when in all honesty, he was doing it to make his wife and his baby's life easier. And that's just crazy. It was just crazy to me that happened. So a lot of times it tested my morals, okay? It tested my morals and what I was raised on. I do not like making things harder for people. I know since 2020, people have been struggling financially. It's not fun to try to fine people for doing something that the bylaws say you can't do, but it's so minuscule. It doesn't affect anybody else. That lawn, if he messed up that whole entire lawn, it would not have affected anyone else. But we still had to put in a complaint. We still had to ask them not to do that. We still had to say all these little things that made us just look like we were nitpicking, evil people. And I did not like that. And for the record, I do understand if it is on the HOA bylaws, you should abide by the bylaws. But in all seriousness, parking on your lawn isn't going to affect anything. So I'm not even sure why it's in the bylaws. That being said, let's talk about the straw that broke the camel's back and why we left. So I would say less than a year ago, probably 6 months ago, it was right before Thanksgiving, I believe. We went through with our treasurer, who keeps all the financial records and all that stuff, which, by the way, that's interesting. It just turned on. I did not turn that on. He keeps all the financial stuff, and which, by the way, the financial stuff is public record to anybody in the neighborhood. If they want to see it, all they have to do is ask. And people have asked before, can we see where the money's going? Which is another story, but people have asked. We always say yes. They always show it. It's for everyone to see. So around that time, we went through the money with our treasurer, and we found out that we were going into debt, that prices have raised so much that we needed to raise the HOA fee. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We were either going to raise it $350 or $400. I'm going to say to $400 because I'm going to say $400, but I don't remember if it was $350 or $400 at this time. I went through the bylaws like I do often. I don't think like anybody else in this neighborhood goes through those bylaws. I went through the bylaws and I found that we can, as a board, change things and make meetings as needed. And since we've seen that this needs to be made, and it was not at the time where we would have like a regular meeting, we went ahead and we changed it to, I'm going to say 400 again. And we sent out the notice that this was going on. Again, anybody has records to the bank accounts if they want to see, you know, what we're seeing. And that we needed to raise HOA prices to meet this demand, or the next year or two. I think we had enough money in that bank account to last a year, paying what we had to pay. The next year or two, we were going to be in debt and we were going to be in trouble as a neighborhood. As a HOA, you have to pay certain things. You have to have insurance. You have to have things like that in case something happens on your property. You have to have certain things. And so we seen that which way it was going. We sent out the notice that it was going to be raised, and all heck broke loose. When I say it was bad here, it was bad. People were angry that we didn't give them any warning. People want to see the bank account, which again, they did. Nobody was lying. Nobody was taking money, because that went around too. Supposedly, when I had the family living here with me, it made us a 10-person household, okay? We were working our off, okay, to make money. And supposedly around that December, there was a lot of packages coming in the mail. Of course there was. We had 10 people to buy for Christmas, not including the pets, because we do buy for our pets during Christmas. There was a lot of packages at our door. And supposedly a rumor started that we were using that money to pay for those things. And when we showed the person who it fell on, I think it was started with somebody else, and somebody said to this lady, check the bank account because I think they're taking money. When we showed that lady that we weren't, I'm sorry, my kid's being loud upstairs. When we showed that lady that we weren't taking money and that was just ridiculous, that whole thing got dropped real quick. That was interesting that whole rumor got dropped real quick. So anyway, we've seen the red flags. We've seen them way ahead of time that we were going to be losing money and that we needed to up the dues. Again, even $400 would be nothing compared to the neighborhoods near us. They pay monthly, we pay yearly. They pay $400 a month. We were looking to pay $400 a year. It wouldn't have been nothing. And I do understand, like I said earlier, that some families just can't pay. But when we're about to go into debt, serious debt, as an HOA, that is a serious thing. That is enough for the township to step in and say, we're taking control of this. And then our HOA dues would go up even more because we would have to pay for somebody to do it then. If the township had to do it, they wanted to be paid, okay? We did it as volunteer positions, but that's what the township wanted. So since people were mad, we made a meeting to talk about it. It was time to make a meeting anyway. We made a meeting to talk about it, and it did not go over well. You would think that a room full of adults could handle themselves better than what they did. It was like all-out catfight between men and women over this whole thing. It got bad enough that our treasurer was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Find somebody else. He quit. It was that bad. There was people going at people over this HOA meeting, over the fees being put up. And then that neighbor that I told you complained a lot started coming out with all of her complaints. On top of what we were trying to figure out about HOA dues, she started coming out with her complaints. Another neighbor said something that they didn't like, that household didn't like, and it started a screaming match inside of a library. It was very sad. The whole thing was... It was pretty pitiful, and they complained enough that we put back down our HOA fee to $300 because it seemed like everybody was mad that they weren't told before we raised it, even though in bylaws we could raise it with no issue. Everybody was mad at that, but they were missing the point. We raised it for a reason. We raised it because we needed to raise it because, again, we only have like a year buffer before we go into debt. So since everybody complained, we put it back down. We said, you know what? We'll put it back down to $300. That's when we also stepped down as president. We said, nobody agrees on this. We're showing you cold, hard facts. We're showing you bank accounts. We're showing you receipts. We're showing you taxes. Everybody said no. Something's wrong there. So we end up backing down too. Actually, the treasurer and us stopped at the exact same time. And it was, I'm gonna have to work on this oven a little bit more. That's stained. It was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking to see the way that they've reacted to that. And at the end of the day, they put it back down. Even though they seen the facts, they seen that we were in trouble, they said no. So I don't blame anybody involved for stepping down. That being said, let's cut ahead, okay? So we're not in good terms as of right now, right? As president, we haven't been having the easiest ride. Every few months, we have a complaint from that neighbor about something new, something they want done. They want the trees cut. We have tree guys out. The tree guys tell us the trees are fine. They do not need to be cut right now. She complains even more. She wants them cut. She wants them done now. This, that, and the 5 million things. And I'm probably forgetting even more of what happened with, oh, there was something else. I'm going to tell you this a little bit after because it has nothing to do with HOA, but it has everything to do with this neighbor, and you'll understand what type of person this neighbor is and why she made being HOA president a living heck, if you know what I mean. I'll tell you about that after, though. So we belled, treasurer belled, and that left just the board. We had a meeting with the board, and we told them they had to pick a new president, that we were done. And it was shocking to hear what some of these people said. Now, let me just say, I do love some of my neighbors. I really, really do love some of my neighbors. There's more good neighbors here than there is negative ones. There really is. I think we have a very mixed collection of intelligent people living here. There's a few that really dinge that, but we do have a really intelligent mix of people living here. So we had a meeting. Actually, we had it right here. I told you guys in some of the videos, I said I gotta clean this because we have a meeting here. We have an important meeting here. That was the important meeting. And we said, you need to pick a new president. You need to figure out who you want to be president and what you want to do about this, because we're out, the treasurer is out. You're kind of left with nobody. Also, tax season's coming up. I don't think the treasurer ever did the taxes for this year, to be honest, but I also don't blame him. They put him down so much and kicked him while he was down so much at that meeting. I don't blame him for leaving them high and dry. I would have done the exact same thing. So we said you need to figure this out. They end up picking a new president. He's a lawyer, so I'm sure that the bylaws will definitely be used to the fullest extent. I hope that he has fun. I'm pretty sure that I went to school with this guy because he always looked familiar to me. Then I found his full name out and I went, I did go to school with somebody by that name. So I think there's a chance I went to school with this guy. And in school, we weren't close in school at all. I wouldn't even say that we were acquaintances at school. We did not get along at school. So I do wish him luck. I do. Maybe he will figure things out and pull this neighborhood out of the debt that it's going to be in if nothing is done. I wish him luck. I wish him nothing but luck. And I hope the best for him. I do think that there's going to be a rude awakening in the neighborhood. I don't think it's going to be right away. As far as I know, and this was said out loud. This was said at that meeting where everybody flipped out and fights started, okay? It was said by this person that instead of raising HOA prices, let's just start billing people. So you would still have your HOA, you would still have your $300 a year that you have to pay, but then if something happened, we'll split it between the households and everybody will get a bill. I don't think, oh, I need a new rag. Speaking of firemen, you hear that? Every time that goes off, we have a fire station pretty close to us. He always has to go. So could you imagine somebody having an emergency and him having to stop his wife from taking care of his baby to move the cars in order to get out? And you could say, well, he could park behind her, couldn't he? No, that didn't work either. Could you imagine though, if you were having an emergency and you had to wait for your wife with the newborn baby? Now I think the baby's a little less than a year old. Could you imagine waiting for all of that to happen so that he could get to your emergency? Parking on the lawn doesn't sound half bad right when your house is burning. Anyway, where was I going with that? Oh, yeah, I don't think it takes a rocket science to see that that can end up as a problem if we just start billing every household instead of just upping the HOA $100 for every household. So, example, I'm sure you guys get this because it's not hard to understand. Example, say we need some trees cut down. Say we need $2,000. We split it between the households, everybody pays it. Okay, say a month from then, we need another thing done. It's another $2,000. We split it then. You see how that can add up to be way more than the $100 that we were just trying to up HOA? People are going to start getting bills for random things that the neighborhood needs, and you're going to have to pay anyway. So why not just up it that $100, have it covered, have it saved for when things like that happen, instead of just start billing people when the actual things happen, which I'm also confused on how that's going to work. So are we going to have an emergency and then have to bill everybody and collect all the money before we fix the emergency? Because again, in another year or so, we're not going to have a buffer like we do right now in the HOA. It's going to be like the bare minimum in there to pay things. That's it. So when we have an emergency, are we going to go collecting money everywhere? And what happens if a household says, I'm not paying? Or a household just doesn't pay, but you have this emergency that needs to be paid right now. Wouldn't it make more sense to have the buffer than to start billing people? I don't know, guys. The neighborhood seems to feel different on this. They seem to feel like that's a great idea. Instead of upping it $100, we'll just start billing people whenever something happens. I don't know. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, but it kind of is what it is. Am I a little disheartened about this? Absolutely, guys, because for so long, I heard how bad HOAs are, and I even hear it here, how bad HOAs are, and it's not the president, it's not the treasurer's fault, it's the people complaining that don't stand up and just say their complaint. You know, they hide behind the president, they hide behind the treasurer. It's those people who make it a living heck here, that then we have to go and we're forced to do things that we find morally wrong to satisfy these people. Honestly, the bylaws should be changed. They really honestly should. I don't think anybody around here is going to. In our bylaws, it has to have an 80% yes for the bylaws to be changed. I don't think anybody's going to do that anytime soon, but these bylaws are outdated. They 100% are, and they need work. They really do. So, I don't think any of my neighbors will ever see this video, but I honestly don't care if they do. But if you think around the neighborhood and you go, why did that change? Why did they have to do that? Why did they have to do that? Why did they have to do that? Know that it was pretty much one household bending our arm, making us have to do all these things that you go, that doesn't need to be done. Why would we do something as silly as change the parking? Because somebody complained. It was not on us. We were not trying to do that. I feel terrible that people now have a hard time parking sometimes. I feel bad that the fireman now has a hard time parking sometimes. There goes my little rant, but I still have more to tell you guys about. Just hold tight. I bought these bottles of water in bulk, these sparkling bottles of water, and it was actually for that meeting. And we still have so many left. Like, this is only the 3 that are out. We have some in the fridge too. We don't drink them enough. Maybe you can mix them with like something else, like I was going to say soda, but like juice or something like that. Maybe we can use them as mixes. I don't know, but we still have way more than I should of those. Anyway, that being said, I'm gonna tell you another story about this neighbor. We're really getting in talk here about this neighbor, but again, that was the only household that really made being HOA unbearable. And you might say you were just in the kitchen and then you were in the dining room and now you're back in the kitchen. Yeah, I forgot this counter, okay? I forgot to wipe this counter down. So when I had the family living with us, which is when I stopped making YouTube videos, by the way, you know that big gap in my YouTube videos? It's because we had another family living here and it was a large family. There was no way to film around people and I didn't want to put them on camera. That's not nice. That's not respectful in my opinion. When somebody's going through a hard time, the last thing you want to do is film it. I very much stand by that. I hate seeing the videos online of these people having a hard time. You know, gravity's got them down a little bit, if you know what I mean. They're fighting gravity. I really dislike seeing videos like that. You shouldn't film people when they're at their hardest time. So I stopped making videos. But at that time, we had this family here. And this was right after my dad, and then came back to life. Talk about a fighter. Anyway, we had this family living here, and me and the mom, I'm going to just refer to her as the mom, we were outside on the step late one night. I think it was 10 o'clock at night, which I get is late. It was definitely not after 10, but it might also have been like 9:30. It was around 9:30, 10 o'clock. We were out on the step, and we live in the suburbs. We get the weirdest bugs here sometimes. Now, I came from Philly, okay? I came from cockroaches and water bugs and rats and mice, okay? And the bugs I have here are really weird, okay? I would take the Philly cockroaches. No, I won't. No, I won't. No, I won't. I was gonna say I would take those over these bugs, but no, I won't. I honestly wouldn't. But we have bugs here that will, like, fly at you. I know that they can't see. That's what people tell me, and they have really bad flying, whatever. But they will fly at you and, like, ding, and I mean, look at this forehead. They get me every single time. And so, we were sitting outside one night, and a bug flew at me, and I could not see what it was. And we also, for the record, have poisonous bugs around here. We have poisonous spiders. We also have assassin bugs. We have things around here that would hurt you if they bit you, okay? And so something flew at me. And it got on me. It got me right here. I still remember that moment. And I screamed. Now listen, I know it was like 9:30, 10 o'clock. But when something you don't see flies at you and gets you, and you know that you can be like bit or stung, okay, tell me you wouldn't scream. Now, I didn't scream like a horror movie scream, but I was like, like, it was freaky. And this neighbor, who again complained all the time, texted Chase and said, could you tell your wife to be a little bit more quiet? And you know, from the way that she interacts with people, that that's exactly how that text message came off. Could you tell your wife to be a little bit more quiet? And I looked at Chase and I said, please give me her phone number. And I still have this text message in my phone to this day. I was so angry. I probably texted before I thought it through. And if you guys don't know, I am terrible with grammar. I really am. The description boxes down below are normally AI generated because that dishwasher went on again. Because I am not good with grammar. I'm just not. I failed it all the way up to high school, okay? I'm not good with it. English is my first language. I'm just not good at it. And so I texted her. And it was a very meaningful text message from me to her. And I said, hey. I said something along these lines. I don't remember exactly what it was. I can look back, but I'm not going to. It was something along the lines of, hey, I am sitting outside on my porch, enjoying the weather with my blank, the person who was with me. I said, and a bug flew at me. I could not see what the bug was. I didn't know. I screamed because it scared me. I said, but listen, my father just, you know what I mean? It's been hard. So for me to sit out there and laugh, because, you know, after going, you know, you find it, you laugh, you go, oh my goodness, I acted like a baby, whatever. For me to laugh, it was the first time in a long time, and it seriously was. Again, I didn't film any part of this break. When I was on a break, I was on a break. I wasn't filming anything. For me to have a moment to be able to laugh over something that scared me, and it wasn't like we were throwing a party. I screamed. I laughed. We moved on with the night. We were not having a party. We were not out there going crazy. We were not out there running the streets. I said, I'm sorry it upset you. Maybe close your window, because her window was open. And I'm sorry, we have kids here. My household was full of kids. There's other neighbors here that have kids. It was summertime. Kids play. If you don't want to hear people being a little bit louder than you like, maybe move to a neighborhood for like 55 and up. I don't know. Maybe do that. But if that whole 3 seconds of me going, and then laughing, upset you that much to send a text message like that, tell your wife to be quiet, close your window or move. I'm sorry. I deal with my neighbors partying. I don't tell them to be quiet. I close my window. They're having a fun time. Let people live. We live one life, man. We live one life. Let people enjoy their life. Like I said, and I'm serious with you guys, it was like a, and then a laugh, and that was it. We were not out there partying. So for her to say that, and you know what, it probably coincided with some favor she wanted done that we said no to, or that the township said no to. It probably coincided with her being mad over something, okay? Because there was always something she wanted done. There was always a favor or a complaint. It really bothered me, it did. And I mean, obviously it bothered her, and I will say that a month passed. Right now, I can say hi to her. She says hi to me. Did we sit and have a conversation? No. Did she ask me about her garden last year? Yes. Did I give her the information that I had that I knew? Yes, I did. I gave her information about the pumpkins that she had growing. I will always be respectful of people. Unless you're not respectful to me, I will. And even then, I try to always be respectful of people because I do understand some people have bad days. But all that to say, and when I watch back this video and I edit it, I know that I'm going to miss things. I know there's going to be points where I go, please understand that HOAs are not your worst enemy. We're really not. A lot of times we take the brunt of everything that everybody brings at us without asking to be paid, without asking for a thank you, without wanting acknowledgement for it. We take the brunt of everything. And that being said, I still do live here. Are we a part of it? No. Will I go to every single meeting and keep reading my bylaws and keep update on that so that I know every single thing that is in there? Absolutely. I absolutely will, because even though we are not on the board, we are not president, we are not treasurer, I will still make sure that things are not done in this town, in this neighborhood, to benefit other people personally. And that's what it always seemed like this household wanted. They always wanted HOA to use HOA's money to benefit them. And I will not let that happen by everything it says in the bylaw. I know my bylaws. I'm going to make sure that as a neighbor in this neighborhood, as a resident in this neighborhood, that nothing gets done outside of those bylaws to hurt this neighborhood. I would wish that more people in this neighborhood would take the time out to read the bylaws. I know that they're a lot, it's like 30-something pages. I have went through, highlighted, I have sticky noted, I have marked things off. I wish more people in this neighborhood would, so that they know their rights. And I just wish that they would understand that the things that happen here, we had to take the brunt for it. It was not us. I don't want anybody here to hurt over something that happened at the time when we were HOA president. I don't want anybody to hurt over that. I don't want no bad blood. If you guys remember the Christmas video where I said Santa skipped our house, Santa comes around on the fire engine, he skipped our house last year. Again, it's the firemen who come around. It was the firemen that we had to ask not to park on your lawn anymore because somebody was upset he was parking on his own lawn. Just so happens after that complaint and after we had to handle it, then the fireman Santa skipped our house. I don't want bad blood with people. I'm not that type of person. I mean, I don't really care so much about the family that was complaining across the street. I don't want to become friends with them. I don't ever want to become close with them. And nobody knows, and I mean, I'll say it now because again, we're not president, that they were willing to bribe us. They were willing to give us money, gift cards. He said gift cards, to get the work done on their property with HOA money. They were willing to drop a bribe our way to get the work done on their property for HOA. And nobody knows that. We never told anybody because, you know, we try to keep things as cool as possible. Do I think that those people will still palm smear other people who are now in charge? Absolutely, I think they'll try. I would hope that nobody would fall for it, but I think they'll try. I think they'll do whatever they can to get whatever they want. And I will question. I will be there to make sure that my money that I'm putting into HOA personally as a neighbor doesn't benefit somebody else personally. That's what I can do now. So I'm gonna go, but that is the tea. Like I said, I'm probably missing things. There's a huge chance, we've been president for so many years now, there's a chance I am missing a large part of it. But I'm gonna go for now. I'm gonna finish cleaning. I actually think I have orange juice. I think I can mix like one of these sparkling waters and orange juice. I think I heard that before, like as an adult drink with something else, but I don't think I need the adult part of that drink. I think I can just do this and orange juice. So I might try that. But there goes the tea. And I wasn't going to say anything, but now that we're not involved anymore, and I'm not putting anybody's personal name out there. I didn't, okay? I didn't say anybody personally. I'm gonna let you guys know. Some HOAs are not as bad as what they seem. Sometimes they are a front for the people who love to complain and love to cause misery. So I hope that you guys, though, have a good morning, afternoon, or evening. I still can understand why some people would say I would never go with the HOA. I would never go with the HOA again either. But they're not all bad. Anyway, guys, for like the third time, I hope that you guys have a good morning, afternoon, or evening. I'll be back probably with the Bella video. I need to go shopping for her birthday. I still have yet to do that. I need to go to Dollar Tree, so that's where we're going to end up. But bye for now, guys.